Hello everybody, it's Hippadippin here, and today we're going to be doing another The Best of Their Types video. Today we're going to be doing Poison, and I'll get into that in a second, but right now I just wanted to say, very sorry for the very shaky upload patterns I'm doing right now. These videos do take a lot of time. This one in particular took 2 days to make, and it takes time to go ahead and do this and process it, so I apologize if I'm not getting these out to you, every day or every other day. It just is, it's a very taxing thing, and I have other stuff going on, but that's no excuse. I am very sorry for not having this one out earlier, or any of them out earlier than what they should be, or what you guys expect, so I'm very sorry about that. But without further ado, let's go into the best of their types Poison. Now, I feel like Poison is a very underappreciated type, considering what it can do, and what it does best is set up statuses and hazards, and that's pretty much what the Poison type excels at. They are usually bulky status setters. That's all there is to it. I mean, they set up Toxic, Will-O-Wisp, Taunt, all the pretty much standard moves. They can pretty much do that excellently, and I feel like Poison's one of the best types to go ahead and, set that stuff up. So let's go ahead and take a look. I feel like they're one of the best types defensively, with resistances to Poison, Bug, Fighting, Grass, and Fairy. That's a lot of resistances. Along with Steel, that's pretty good. And you know what? A lot of these types are very common, especially Fighting and Fairy, and Grass for that matter. So you can go ahead and switch in Poison types pretty easily against, any of these or any neutral type Pokemon, and usually you'll be okay. Like I said earlier, they are usually the best at setting statuses. Toxic Taunt, for example. They are very bulky and able to stay healthy throughout the game. Some are able to stay healthy better than others. Some will require, kind of risky moves to go ahead and stay healthy, like Pain Split or, whatever. But some of them are able to stay healthy pretty well, and they are very bulky for the most part. And unfortunately, they are weak to one of the most prominent types, Ground, and ineffective against Steel. Now, Steel is one of the biggest problems that Poison types run into, especially the offensive ones. And usually, you're not going to have a Poison type Pokemon out against a Steel type unless it's, say, a defensive Pokemon, and your primary defensive Pokemon out against a Steel. I mean, you can burn it, whatever, but I mean, usually you're not going to have a Poison type out against a Steel, at least if you want to keep it alive. So you can usually play around that, and usually Poison type Pokemon do have moves that they can use against Steel type Pokemon, so it's not exactly a, ineffective thing totally, but they do have a lackluster ability to deal with Steel types. So let's go ahead and move on after that. Number 10 is going to be Tentacruel. And I personally have never used Tentacruel, but I can recognize its potential, and its potential is pretty good. It is one of the better spikes setters, and it just does its job well. It can absorb special hits like crazy. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. It has pretty great defenses of, well, not great, but they're better than average. Defenses of 80, 65, and 120. Now that's especially good for that special defense, like I was saying earlier. It has a pretty decent base 100 speed, and what that allows it to do is be faster than other bulky type Pokemon. And really, it's pretty great. I mean, base 100 speed is, remarkably fast for a, special wall or wall type Pokemon. Usually you don't see defensive Pokemon with that kind of speed. It has a very solid water/poison typing with only 3 weaknesses, and that being electric, ground, and psychic. So that is what you are going to have to watch out for. But other than that, they take neutral from everything, really. And they do have a very, very respectable move pool. Very good team supporter. especially with setting up hazards, taunt, toxic, spikes, toxic, regular spikes. It can just do that stuff very well. It is also a good rapid spinner. While it can set up hazards, it can go ahead and rapid spin them away without having to worry about getting rid of its own, so that's pretty cool. However, it is outclassed by other Pokemon on this list, and so let's go ahead and move on. Tentacruel Set is going to be 252 in HP, 252 plus in special defense, 4 in special attack, and a negative nature in attack. You're going to want to run Clear Body to prevent any sort of stats going down. The opponent cannot, lower your special defense or lower your attack or lower your special attack for that matter. So Clear Body is a pretty good ability, and personally I think a lot of Pokemon could have, benefit from it, definitely. Black Sludge is going to be a good, gradual time over time, recovery. And Scald is going to be your primary attacking move, say if you got taunted. Rapid Spin, of course, to get rid of those, hazards. And Toxic or Toxic Spikes, just to go ahead and set up status and, poison Pokemon coming in. Especially, that's pretty cool. And you're going to want to run Infestation or Aqua Ring. And really, it's just a matter of personal preference. If you'd like even more recovery each turn, I'd probably go with Aqua Ring. But Infestation is good just to trap enemies in there, especially if they can't do anything against you. And with that base 100 speed, you're going to be outspeeding a lot of stuff. So that's going to be pretty neat, especially on your end when they cannot switch out. And you can probably kill them in a few Scalds. As long as Infestation is active, they cannot switch out unless they have, U-turn or Volt Switch or something like that. But really, generally, they're going to be in there for a while, and you can go ahead and hurt them during that time, over time, with like Infestation damage, Scald damage. If you get a burn, that's extra damage. You can go ahead and Toxic them. It's going to be over for them relatively quickly. And that's pretty much what Tentacruel does best, is going ahead and dealing damage in increments over time, especially with those spikes and toxic spikes. So that is what Tentacruel does best in my opinion. So let's go ahead and move on. Our next Pokemon is going to go ahead and be Nidoking. And for anybody who's used Nidoking, you would probably agree with me that Nidoking can pack some power, especially with sheer force, its ability. And really, Nidoking just excels at that, just putting on damage. He can't do much else, but he can definitely pack on damage to the opponent, especially with his crazy move pool. So let's go ahead and take a look. Nidoking has base 102, 85, and 85 offensive stats with an 85 speed. That's what the second 85 is. It has access to sheer force, like I said, which pretty much boosts all his moves that are have a secondary effect. And that's going to be pretty nice. Cool thing about sheer force, also, is that it negates the damage from Life Orb when doing a attack that has a secondary effect. Now that's kind of weird, and I really wish Nintendo would simplify that just to make it so you wouldn't take recoil damage from Life Orb. But you know what? Nintendo is pretty bad at figuring out how to balance things, so I don't think that's going to work. Its move pool is wild and diverse, which is pretty great. I mean, it has a very, very diverse move pool. If you go ahead and look it up, it gets a lot of really neat special moves. It is hard to judge by what type of set it's running just by looking at it. You can usually look at the team and maybe kind of figure it out, but I mean, it's usually you're gonna have to, take a turn or two to figure out what type of Nidoking it is. If it's Choice or if it's Life Orb or what kind of moves it's running. But really, Nidoking is very difficult to judge, especially on first glance. Its base 85 speed is bad. That is very bad, especially for an offensive Pokemon. 85 speed is nothing. That is garbage. And unfortunately, it's not a good idea to have him without some sort of speed control. You could run a Choice Scarf on it, but I personally think a Choice Scarf is better used on a different Pokemon. If you, say, had a Galvantula, who could go ahead and set up Sticky Web, or you could paralyze the opponent or whatever, then Nidoking could definitely be more effective, but really, you're going to need some sort of speed control just to keep those very fast offensive Pokemon slow so that Nidoking can deal with them. It is not difficult to kill or revenge kill. Nidoking is rather simple, in my opinion, for lack of a better term. Nidoking is simple, and all that means is that it's very easy to go ahead and take advantage of Nidoking, and Nidoking just can't handle a lot of attacks. Its defenses are okay, but they're not great, and it will eventually get worn down. And nobody really runs any sort of recovery on Nidoking, not that it gets any, but they might run Blank Sludge or something like that, and unfortunately that's just not going to cut it. Nidoking is too weak to go ahead and take advantage of that on the defensive side. So let's go ahead and take a look at his set. You're going to want to run 252 in special attack, 252 plus in speed, 4 in HP, negative nature in attack, and sheer force ability. And you're going to want to run Life Orb or Choice Scarf. And for its moves, you might want to run Sludge Bomb or Sludge Wave, excuse me. Sludge Bomb deals less damage than Sludge Wave, but it has a greater chance to poison. But really, the only difference is that it's 5 base power less. It's nothing crazy. Sludge Wave does hit multiple enemies, so maybe if you're running him in VGC or doubles or something like that, that would be pretty cool. But I mean, I don't think it's worth it. And Sludge Wave has a lower accuracy, I believe. I believe it's a lower accuracy. Yeah, so I'd definitely go with Sludge Bomb over Sludge Wave for that matter. You're going to want to run Earth Power. Earth Power it's a very good stab move, has a chance to lower special defense, so that's pretty cool. Ice Beam and Flamethrower or Thunderbolt. These are two very common moves I see on Nidoking, is Flamethrower or Thunderbolt. They usually definitely have Ice Beam, for the most part, but I have seen a split between Flamethrower and Thunderbolt, so if I had to choose, I'd probably go with Flamethrower, just because Flamethrower hits a lot of things in the meta hard. Especially, say, things that are 4 times weak to fire, like Fairhorn or Scizor, if you're playing OU. But I'd probably go with Flamethrower just for that extra coverage. So that's Nidoking. Let's go ahead and take a look at our next Pokemon. Number 8 is going to be Amoonguss, and I had Amoonguss on my top, grass-type Pokemon list, but the best of their types, grass. And Amoonguss is just, it does well in life and in Pokemon. It just does well, and it relies on several factors to be this way. Number 1, it's a sleep setter, and number 2, it has regenerator. So you can go ahead and keep switching him out, and putting stuff to sleep at the same time. And Amoonguss Set excels at that, excuse me. So let's go ahead and take a look. It has base 114 HP, 70 defense, and 80 special defense, which is pretty great. It's able to eat up hits like crazy, and especially due to that grass and poison typing. And really what it's able to do is just stay in and stay in and stay in, and then when you do get low, you go ahead and switch out. And so yeah, that's regenerator for you. Especially with those defenses, that's nothing to be upset about. It also stops lower tier fairies, which is pretty nice. It's able to heal itself enough through switching to keep it viable throughout the match, and that's very important, especially for a defensive Pokemon. Usually defensive Pokemon are going to stay in there and just be there. Excuse me, but if you keep switching out Amoonguss and keeping your momentum up, Amoonguss is going to pay you back. I mean, it really will. It's going to give you 33% of his health back each turn, which is, I mean, each time you switch out, excuse me, not each turn. That would be super Gliscor. But, I mean, every time you switch out, you're going to get a bunch of HP back, which is awesome. And it pairs well with that high base 114 defense, HP stat, excuse me. And it can either be specially or physically defensive. So you are going to have to, if you are playing against an Amoonguss, it's kind of difficult to judge I have seen them both, and I have seen them split in half, so you are going to have to watch out for that. Personally, if I had to run it, I definitely would run physically defensive Amoonguss, just because there are enough specially defensive grass poison types, and also the typing itself is just awesome against physical attackers. So let's go ahead and look at its set. It's also slow and it's easy to switch into after Spore. But here's its set, Amoonguss. It has a 252 in HP, 152 plus in special defense, and 104 in defense. You're going to want to run in Negative Nature and Attack and Regenerator, its hidden ability, as your ability. Black Sludge is a good idea. So is Spore, Giga Drain, Toxic, and Venoshock. And I explained this in my Best of the Types Grass video, that the idea is to go ahead and Toxic the opponent, and then Venoshock, because Venoshock's going to be doing double damage. It's essentially going to turn into a 120 base power move, especially if the target is toxic or poisoned. So you are going to go ahead and have the advantage with that. And I feel like this is a sort of strategy that not a whole lot of people look at, just because you have to set up the toxic first, or you have to get them poisoned first. But let's say you had toxic spikes up. You could go ahead and run Venoshock and be doing a serious amount of damage. And while Amoonguss is not offensive at all, it is able to deal some damage through Venoshock, which would be a powerful move if your opponent is toxic or poisoned. So do keep that in mind. And Spore, of course, put Pokemon to sleep. 100% accuracy is very nice, as opposed to like 60 from Hypnosis or anything like that. And Spore is just one of those good moves. I don't like it, especially when it's used against me, but it is very effective if you are going to be taking advantage of that. So let's go ahead and move on to our next Pokemon. Our next Pokemon is going to be Weezing, and I was kind of juggling between putting Weezing here on this list or more back a little, but Weezing I feel deserves the spot at number 7, just because he is very viable. He is viable even in OU, and I feel like Weezing is very underappreciated for what it can do. So let's go ahead and take a look. Weezing has great defenses of 65, 120, and 70. Now, that defense is what you're going to want to focus on, and Weezing, thanks to being a poison type and thanks to that having so many resistances, or resisting so many types, you are going to be able to just wall physical attackers really easily, especially the very common, fighting, grass, whatever. But I mean, Weezing just does it well. And it has access to Levitate to eliminate a major weakness, ground. And what that basically allows you to do is have an immunity along with all that stuff. So really, Weezing is just weak to Psychic at this point, and that's pretty much his only weakness. And once you go ahead and take that into account, Weezing is looking like a very, very promising physical defender. And really, I feel like he's very underappreciated for what he does. I have used Weezing in the past, and I have enjoyed him, but I just have my favorites, and I'm going to go ahead and play with my favorites. But Weezing just is pretty cool. So if you want to run Weezing, if you're looking for a defensive Pokemon, and you haven't found one yet, I strongly urge you to consider Weezing. And it has very capable status moves like Will-O-Wisp to go ahead and cripple physical attackers even more. So say you had a Garchomp on the field and you were using Weezing, you can go ahead and Will-O-Wisp Garchomp, and Garchomp can't do a darn thing against you, and that's pretty much it. It does have access to Stockpile, which is awesome. And Stockpile is one of the best setup moves in the game, I feel like. You can just set up your defense and special defense like crazy. It's pretty nice. Unfortunately, it does have a cap though, so you cannot keep boosting forever and ever. But really, it does its job well. However, Weezing does not have any recovery outside of Pain Split or Rest. Two very unreliable moves. Pain Split, excuse me for that. Pain Split for, varying HP levels between Pokemon, and Rest you're going to be asleep for 2 turns, so I don't know if that's necessarily worth it. But let's go ahead and take a look at Weezing Set regardless. You're going to want to run 252 in HP and 252 plus in defense, 4 in special defense, and in negative nature and attack. Levitate, of course, and you're going to want to run Black Sludge. Not too many items work. I suppose you could also run Rocky Helmet, but you're going to want any sort of recovery you can get with Weezing, so I definitely would recommend Black Sludge over Rocky Helmet. You're going to want to run Sludge Bomb or Clear Smog, and I'll explain that in a second, but Pain Split, Will-O-Wisp, and Flamethrower are going to be the rest of your moves. Will-O-Wisp just to cripple those physical attackers, Pain Split to get your health back up if you can, and Flamethrower as a alternative just to hit those steel types, say if you're trapped or whatever, so keep that in mind. But the reason I have Sludge Bomb or Clear Smog up here is that Clear Smog eliminates all of the stat boosts that the opponent Pokemon makes. Keep in mind it also removes all their negative, stat decreases as well. So you are going to have to keep that in mind if you are going to be running Weezing. Personally, I really like Clear Smog, and it's not like you're going to be doing any sort of serious damage with Sludge Bomb anyway. But really, I'd probably go with Clear Smog, but just to go ahead and stop those Pokemon that set up, defenses and special defenses and attack and stuff like that. Stuff that would get out of hand if you didn't have Weezing. So Clear Smog, in my opinion, is one of the better moves on this set, and I'd probably choose it over Sludge Bomb. But yeah, that's Weezing. Let's go ahead and move on here. Our next Pokemon is going to be Scolipede, and Scolipede is a Pokemon I have used extensively, and I enjoy using Scolipede. I just never used him the way that he, I believe, was meant to be played. And Scolipede has a very specific moveset that a lot of people run, although it can be diverse. Usually a lot of people run it in this fashion, and I think that's exactly how Game Freak designed it, because Game Freak set it up with so many setup moves that it's crazy. And if you haven't figured it out at this point, this Pokemon is supposed to be a baton passing monster, absolute monster. And what this Pokemon basically does is it sets up as many, boosting moves as it can, and then it just passes it off to whatever, and then it can come in later and do the exact same thing. So it's pretty shaky on how, crazy this thing can set up. So do keep a wide eye out for it if it's up against you. So let's go ahead and take a look. Like I said, it's a superb baton passer. Excellent setup moves. Excellent. And really, not many Pokemon can go ahead and do that. So that's pretty cool. It has access to Speed Boost, which is important. I mean, very, very important. You could set up a Swords Dance and have your speed boosted at the same time. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. It's diverse and unpredictable, although not so much now, but more so in the past, I feel like. But it's a great team supporter. Very good team supporter, actually. It can set up, spikes, toxic spikes, whatever. And it can taunt the opponent, it can bring them down with Endeavor. It has a lot of options it can go ahead and use when it's going to be up against your opponent. However, it has an unimpressive base 100 attack, so you are going to have to watch out for that. I personally did run him as a physical attacker, and now I realize that there's better Pokemon that fit that role and do it better than Scolipede. So personally, I definitely feel like Scolipede is a Pokemon meant to go ahead and baton pass. It is Stealth Rock weak, so you are going to have to watch out for that, and that will limit switch-ins and how often you can go ahead and set up those baton passes. So you are going to have to keep that in mind when using Scolipede. For his set, I want to recommend 252 in HP and 252 plus in speed, 4 in defense, and a negative nature and special attack. You're going to want to run a speed boost, its hidden ability, and Focus Sash is a good item, as well as Black Sludge, just to keep you healthy. But Focus Sash is generally a safe bet for you to get at least one, setup move up, and then your speed would be boosted, and then you'd probably be able to pass it, which is pretty cool. For his moves, Swords Dance is a pretty good option, I feel like. Baton Pass is a past generation move, so you're going to have to watch out for that if you're playing on cartridge. You are going to have to level Scolipede up in black and white or black and white too and transfer him over. So keep that in mind. Iron Defense is another good move, and Protect or Endeavor is a great move. Personally, I feel like Endeavor is one of those moves that you can go ahead and use once you get down to your Focus Sash, get to 1 HP, and, you know, use Endeavor and bring them down with you, and then you outspeed them with Speed Boost and then go ahead and bop them. So you are going to have to watch out for that if you're going up against Scolipede, but really it's an awesome strategy if you go ahead and use him. And if you guys watch Pokeaim at all, he pretty much runs something similar to this, at least with Endeavor. Not necessarily these moves, but I mean, Endeavor is a pretty good move, especially if, you know, Pokeaim's running it. So let's go ahead and move on there. Our next Pokemon is going to be Dragalge, and Dragalge is a very interesting Pokemon, and it's been around for, you know, since X and Y, but what it's done in recent times is great. It's gotten access to adaptability, and what that's basically going to allow you to do is fire off wickedly powerful moves with no setup, and really that's about it. Dragalge just soaks up damage and he deals damage back, and he does it so well that he's at number 5 at this list. I also like to make note here that for Pokemon from number 5 and up are difficult to put in order. Just keep that in mind. From like 5 and up, it's so hard to put these Pokemon in slots, numbered slots, and say one is objectively better than the other. So keep that in mind. So if you don't see your favorite poison type Pokemon at number 1, it's probably on the list somewhere, and it's very difficult to go ahead and put, you know, it's hard for me. So anyway, let's move on. Dragalge is base 65, 90, and 123 defenses, which is awesome. That special defense comes in handy, let me tell you, but especially with that typing. It is one of the best Assault Vest users in my opinion. It's able to soak up hits like nothing and fire back crazy damage. This Pokemon eats Scalds for breakfast. I mean, it's crazy, absolutely out of this world. And superpowered Draco Meteors due to adaptability. I mean, you might as well sit down now, man. I mean, Draco Meteor from adaptability Dragalge is gonna hurt like crazy. And its Dragon/Poison typing gives it many resistances, which is awesome. If it is kept healthy, it can go a long way in matches. And that is absolutely true. If you can go ahead and conserve your Dragalge, especially for later, if you wear down the opponent's Pokemon, Dragalge is going to basically allow itself to sit in there and just really, you know, pound it out with the opponent and just usually win, especially if you play him, you know, well. And it's worth it, man. Trust me, it is worth it to keep your defensive Pokemon healthy. So it has, unfortunately, a lack of recovery outside of rest. So you're not going to be able to keep yourself healthy through moves, so that's why it's important to conserve it, really. So, but really, Dragalge is just able to soak up hits well and just deal damage back. That's pretty much his whole jam. That's it. And he does it so well, that's why he's this high on the list. For his set, I am going to recommend 252 in HP and 252 plus in special defense, 4 in special attack, a negative nature in attack, and adaptability as its hidden ability. Assault Vest or Black Sludge, I prefer Assault Vest, and Sludge Bomb, Hydro Pump or Focus Blast, Draco Meteor or Dragon Pulse, and Dragon Tail and Thunderbolt. Very common moves you'll see on a Dragalge, but they just do work, let me tell you, especially against the opponent. But Draco Meteor, I mean, do I really need to explain it? I mean, Draco Meteor is so good, especially bouncing off that adaptability ability. It's crazy. It's like crazy. However, if you do not want to suffer the -2 special attack drop from the Draco Meteor, you can run Dragon Pulse and pretty much do damage pretty well and avoid that crazy special attack drop. And personally, I feel like Dragon Pulse is a very viable move to go ahead and use instead of Draco Meteor if you're going to want to keep Dragalge in there, which is what you generally want to do. Now, Hydro Pump hits a lot of things similarly to Focus Blast, but Hydro Pump, I feel like, it just hits so many more Pokemon better. Ground types, for example, if you can maybe predict the switch, Hydro Pump will take care of that for you. And but Focus Blast is viable in its own rights too. It hits Steel-type Pokemon harder, and it is unfortunately less accurate. So you are going to have to keep that in mind when running Dragalge, especially with Focus Blast. And Dragon Tail and Thunderbolt. Dragon Tail's there just to keep on switches, you know, coming, and Thunderbolt's there, you know, as a pretty standard move. A lot of Dragalge do run Thunderbolt, just to hit those bulky water types, and really that's a good thing. But I definitely prefer Dragon Tail just to keep switches up and going, and really, you're not going to give your opponent time to rest, especially if you're using Dragon Tail. You're going to be wearing them down eventually, and really that's what Dragalge is there for. Take damage and deal damage, man. And chances are you're not going to outspeed the opponent anyway, so you're not going to have to worry about that negative priority with Dragon Tail. But yeah, that's Dragalge pretty much. I freaking love Dragalge, and he does his job well, and it shows. It really, really shows. And so yeah, let's go ahead and move on here. Our next Pokemon is going to be Crobat, and I have mentioned Crobat before on this series. I put him as, you know, lower on the tier on the flying type video, but on Poison, I feel like he's definitely among the best, and it's really, really difficult for me to place Crobat on this list, just because it's difficult to find out where he stands, and he stands pretty well, I feel like. Crobat is one of the best Pokemon, especially in like the UU metagame. Ooh, Crobat is good. And you know what? He deserves to be. I mean, he has some of the best, you know, moves that he can go ahead and use. It's a very supportive Pokemon, and he has one of the best typings in the game. So let's go ahead and take a look. Base 130 speed allows for a quick status setter. Excuse me. He's very diverse, like I said. He's able to set up crazy amounts of status moves and stuff like that. He can also be offensive, but you generally do not see that too often with Crobat. So if you see Crobat, generally they're not going to be hitting too hard, but they're going to be more defensive or more status setting, you know. He has a wide-ranging move pool, which is great. And he can stay healthy very easily thanks to the combination of Black, Sludge, and Roost, which is awesome. You're going to be getting continual recovery turn per turn, and you're also going to be getting a Roost recovery each time you go for it. 50% is not a bad deal, and so that's pretty cool. And he can switch in on a variety of Pokemon, namely fighting types, grass types. Freaking Crobat, I love him so much. He just does amazing work in Pokemon. He just does. And really what that allows for him to do is just be a pivot. Crobat is an awesome pivot. Now, he's not necessarily a check or counter, with the exception of some cases he can be, but really he's an awesome pivot, and that's what you know, a lot of teams need is a good pivot, and Crobat fits this role excellently, I feel like. And Crobat is very viable even in the OU metagame. Not necessarily like crazy good, but he's very usable. And you know what? I feel like Crobat really needs some more recognition. And you know what? He's freaking awesome. I freaking love Crobat so much. I use him on a bunch of my teams if you watch my videos, and you'll know I love him. And he just fits well. He's a good defensive Pokemon. And like I said, he is one of the best typings in the game. And he's immune to a very common weakness, which is ground for those poison types, so he avoids that. However, he is weak to Stealth Rocks, but he is a good unexpected defogger, and the reason why he's unexpected is defog is not on his popular move slot on Showdown. So if you wanted to go ahead and run defog, people aren't even going to see it, because when they go ahead and check for Crobat, Defog is all the way in the available moves, not in the usable moves. So Defog, very hidden gem, and if you can go ahead and exploit that, that would be awesome. And you know what? I don't think many Pokemon could top Crobat in what he does. So let's go ahead and move on. His set, I'm going to want to run 252 in HP and 252 plus in speed or defense. And here's where it can go either way. I have run speed in the past, but now I'm starting to run more defense. I want a Crobat that can stay healthy even more. And defense, I don't necessarily need too much speed for a defensive Pokemon, so I'm going to be investing a lot more into defense. You know, I'm going to totally replace my investment in speed with defense, but you could really go either way. If you want a faster status setter at base 130 speed, go right ahead and sign Crobat up. I mean, he does it well, but right now I'm more leaning towards defense. So it really goes either way, but it just comes down to personal preference. You're going to want to run 4 in attack and a negative nature in special attack. Infiltrator, his hidden ability allows you to hit through light screen, reflect, and substitute, and stuff like that. Stuff that the opponent would do to prevent you from hitting him for damage or reduce damage. So you can go ahead and bypass all that and just hit him hard. Hits through substitutes. Very, very surprising, especially. Black Sludge is the preferred item. You usually do not see anything else. I have seen Life Orb, but really I don't think Crobat excels as an offensive Pokemon. He's better as a defensive one. And you can run Brave Bird, generally a good move. Toxic or Taunt. Recently I'm kind of leaning towards Taunt, but Toxic is a very viable move too. Crobat suffers from the only 4 move slot syndrome, and that's he would be so much better if you could run 5 moves, in my opinion at least. You can run Toxic and Taunt. Shut down so many things like crazy, it's crazy. And I honestly feel like you could go either way. It really is a 50-50. I have had situations where I've had Toxic and I wish I had Taunt, and I've been in situations where I had Taunt and I really wish I had Toxic. So it really, I mean, you can't be perfect against every team in the world. It's just a matter of how your teams match up against each other. And Roost is there just to give you even more HP. Be careful though, I have been predicted in the past to use Roost and used it and they gone for Earthquake and they freaking bopped me. I mean, I've been surprised a couple of times, so play it carefully. And Defog is there just to get rid of hazards, so. Crobat, in my opinion, one of the best Pokemon in the game. I honestly feel like Crobat is one of the best Pokemon in the game. Not the best, but he's up there. Definitely up there. And you go right ahead and use him. I fully endorse him, and I can definitely vouch for what he can do. A lot of teams need something like a Crobat, and fortunately, Crobat fits easy in among teams, especially due to his 4x resist to fighting and grass that are very common types, and Crobat just deals with them very nicely. So let's go ahead and move on. Our number 3 is Venusaur, and really, Venusaur was on my grass list also. And think of Venusaur as a very bulky tank, because that's essentially what Venusaur is. And nothing is really able to stand up to Venusaur and be able to win 1v1 100% of the time. So Venusaur is just able to be that outstanding Pokemon that can just stay in, wall the crap out of everything, and not care. I mean, this is the Pokemon that will do that for you. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. I call Mega Venusaur the Stall Master, and I'll explain more of that in a bit, but he has base defenses of 80, 123, and 120. He can single-handedly wall a good chunk of the Pokemon in the metagame. And that's important, especially for a defensive Pokemon. That's pretty important. Great defensive typing of grass and poison. Very few, weaknesses thanks to Thick Fat, which eliminates 2 of them. And that typing is pretty pretty nice, and it is difficult to deal with if healthy, because a healthy Venusaur means a Venusaur that's going to stay around for a long time. And if you keep a Venusaur, the opponent's Venusaur, healthy, you're just bringing about your own demise. So personally, I feel like deal with Venusaur as soon as possible. And unfortunately for Mega Venusaur, it is shut down by taunts, because the majority of the moves it relies on are status moves like Leech Seed and Synthesis that are just not able to be implemented if it has been taunted. As for the Stall Master, the combination of Leech Seed, Synthesis, and Giga Drain is very, very difficult to stand up against, especially when it's all in one Pokemon. Mega Venusaur is by far one of the best stalling Pokemon in the game, and I mean, he does it well. Leech Seed just drains your health and builds his up. You're not going to get much better of a recovery than that, and I feel like Leech Seed is one of the best recovery options in the game, and I've said that before in my grass video too. And it just goes to show you that, I mean, Mega Venusaur can do his job well and effectively, and Mega Venusaur is a Pokemon that fits well on many teams, just like Crobat, even better than Crobat, I feel like. But he is an OU, so if you want to play OU, go ahead and run Mega Venusaur. He's very, very cool. Let's go ahead and look at his set. Run 252 in HP, 252 plus in special defense, 4 in special attack, and a negative nature in attack. Thick Fat is his ability, gets rid of 2 weaknesses, which is pretty cool. Venusaurite is going to... Sorry guys, due to my excessive rambling, I have run out of time on my recorder, but I'm back. Venusaurite is going to be his item, obviously, to Mega Evolve. And you're going to want to run Giga Drain, Leech Seed, Sludge Bomb, and Synthesis, excuse me. And Giga Drain's there in case you get taunted or can't use your other moves for whatever reason. You can go ahead and get health back at least somehow, so that's pretty cool. And Leech Seed there to get you even more HP back. Sludge Bomb to hit those fairy type Pokemon pretty hard, as well as be dealing some pretty good damage. Mega Venusaur actually has a base 122 special attack, so that's pretty cool. And Synthesis is just there to give you a major chunk of health back immediately, so that's pretty neat. And Mega Venusaur is, like I said, one of the best Pokemon for stall, definitely. Mega Venusaur can stall out a lot more Pokemon that can stall a Mega Venusaur, that's for sure. And really, I mean, not a whole lot can stand up against it in 1v1, and Mega Venusaur just takes advantage of that 100% of the time. It's going to take consecutive hits from multiple Pokemon to go ahead and wear down Mega Venusaur, especially when it's got Synthesis left and Leech Seed left, and Giga Drain left for that matter. So you are going to have to be careful and kind of tiptoe around what Mega Venusaur can do, which is wreck shop with its stalling ability. So let's go ahead and move on. Our number 2 is going to be Beedrill. Mega Beedrill to be exact, not regular Beedrill. But Mega Beedrill is a very, very good switcher. And what Mega Beedrill does is he comes in, he Mega Evolves, he protects, and then he U-turns and proceeds to 2-hit KO every Pokemon. And not a whole lot of Pokemon can do that. Just saying, man. But really, I mean, all his success is based on 2 things. 3 things, actually. Base 145 attack, base 145 speed, and adaptability. And all those things work so well together that Mega Beedrill has got it made. I absolutely believe it. And that just is very hard to beat. I'm saying it now, it's very, very difficult to beat Mega Beedrill when he has such an advantage in those stats and ability. And like I said, he 2-hit KOs almost everything in the meta, so you are going to have to watch out for that. But let's go ahead and take a look here. It has base 145 attack and 145 speed. Adaptability allows for serious damage, I'm telling you. He outspeeds anything not choice scarfed if you are max invested in speed, and his U-turns pack massive damage and switching potential. Now, all that means is you can go ahead and U-turn if you expect to switch and get the right matchup, or just U-turn out of a bad situation. Since he has 145 speed, you're not going to be risking much by going for U-turn. So that is pretty cool. And like I said earlier, he 2-hit KOs a chunk of the metagame, which is awesome. However, Stealth Rock does limit the amount of switch-ins he gets, and it is near impossible to switch into things. That being said, he does have an okay special defense stat, but he has a very bad defense stat of only 40. So you're not going to be able to take too many hits at all. I mean, neutral hits even. Super effective, you can forget about that, but neutral hits is very, very limited. And he needs Protect to get that speed boost, and for some reason the Mega Pokemon don't work necessarily with their speed unless they wait a turn after they Mega Evolve. So you're going to have to watch out for that. Most Pokemon do protect, Mega Beedrill, excuse me, most Mega Beedrill do protect their first turn, so if you can go ahead and predict that, that's awesome. And you are going to have to watch out for his, you know, protecting and speed boosting, and not speed boosting, I'm just saying he gets a massive speed boost when he Mega Evolves, so you are going to have to watch out for that. And his set, you're going to want to run 252 in attack and 252 plus in speed, 4 in special defense, and negative nature in special attack. Adaptability, awesome ability, you don't even have to give me any other options, I'll take adaptability. Beedrill is going to be his item to Mega Evolve, and Poison Jab, pretty standard move. U-turn or X-Scissor, definitely go with U-turn. And Protect, just to get that speed up once you Mega Evolve, and Knock Off, Drill Run, or Pursuit are 2 other options. Pursuit is there just to go ahead and catch leaving Pokemon, because that's what Mega Beedrill does. He forces Pokemon to leave, and you can go ahead and Pursuit them, and you know, maybe even KO them if you're, you know, if they are low enough. So do keep that in mind. Drill Run is there to go ahead and stop all the Pokemon that Mega Beedrill that would normally have trouble against, namely Rock or Steel type Pokemon. Drill Run, if you can maybe predict the switch into them, would do massive damage. So you are going to have to play around with that. I mean, I definitely would not recommend leaving Mega Beedrill in with a Pokemon that can do knock it out immediately just to get a Drill Run off. But I mean, if you can predict the switch, Drill Run is a pretty safe move. Knock Off, again, just a good move to go ahead and cripple Pokemon that rely on their item, and you know, it does pretty nice damage. It's pretty good actually, and it you know what, base 65 Dark type move comes in handy sometimes, even if the item is already knocked off. So that's pretty cool. X-Scissor is the other alternative for U-turn if you want to stay in and do damage. X-Scissor is pretty cool. However, I definitely prefer U-turn just because you're not going to be able to take too many hits, and if you don't kill with X-Scissor, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So I definitely recommend U-turning as opposed to having X-Scissor. But you know what? If you want to run both, adaptability encourages running multiple stab type moves, so that's very cool. But yeah, that's going to be Mega Beedrill. I use him fairly often, but not too often. And I mean, every time I do, I'm amazed at how powerful it is, especially with adaptability. Not much is able to stand up to it. So let's go ahead and move on. Number 1 is Gengar. And for those of you watching and were wondering, you know, where is Gengar? Here he is at the number 1 slot. And I fully mean it. Gengar is one of the best Pokemon in the game. And he just, you know what, he can come in, do a lot of damage, and you know what, be fast at the same time. So let's go ahead and take a look at his stats, or about him, you know. He has a great base 130 special attack and 110 speed, especially that special attack, that's pretty awesome. Levitate removes a major weakness, ground, and allows him to skip over earthquakes like they are nothing. And he can be diverse, but usually the most basic set is Run, which is pretty much just 4 attacks and, like, I don't know, Life Orb or Focus Sash or Choice Scarf or Choice Specs, excuse me. So usually that's the most basic sets, but I have seen some creative like Sub, I don't know, Curse or something like that. I've seen some silly stuff with Gengar, so you can be creative with him. He does force switches fairly often, especially if you get a free switch into the opponent's Pokemon, you're going to be causing some damage with your, you know, forcing the switches. and he is a great choice specs user, and that is very rare among Pokemon. Not a whole lot of Pokemon can benefit greatly from choice specs, while more can benefit from a choice banded or choice scarf. Very few can benefit from choice specs, so Gengar is, unique in that ability. However, he is frail and cannot take too many neutral hits. Even super effective, you can forget about it. That's why a lot of Pokemon run Focus Sash, or a lot of people run Focus Sash just to allow Gengar to live a hit and go ahead and retaliate for some pretty good damage. Very good damage, actually. So let's go ahead and take a look at his set. 252 in special attack and 252 plus on speed is a good idea. Very good idea. 4 in special defense and a negative nature and attack. Levitate is going to be the ability of choice and your only option. And I prefer choice specs, but Life Orb and Focus Sash are also available. Now, Shadow Ball, Sludge Bomb, Giga Drain, or Thunderbolt, and Dazzling Gleam or Psychic are very, very good options. And you know what? Not a whole lot of people run Giga Drain Gengar, but I feel like it's one of the best options you can run on it. You could also run Energy Ball for that extra power, but really I prefer Giga Drain just to get your health back up, say if you take a hit, and you can switch into a, say a Pokemon 4 times weak like Swampert, Giga Drain, and get a whole ton of health back while potentially KOing that Pokemon at the same time. And Thunderbolt's there to hit those bulky, waters, but Giga Drain does that too. So they're two very, very different options you can go ahead and run with that, but run it any way you want, I guess. You could also run Focus Blast, but that has a very, very low accuracy with only base 70 accuracy, so you are going to have... Sorry guys, I got cut off by my recording software there, but as I was saying, it's 50-50 with Giga Drain and Thunderbolt, but I definitely would go with Giga Drain if I had the choice, so do keep that in mind. Dazzling Gleam and Psychic are two very similar moves. Psychic is a bit more powerful, but Dazzling Gleam hits more things, I feel like, for super effective damage. And while Psychic is great in all, I feel like Dazzling Gleam does it better. Dazzling Gleam hits fighting types, it hits dark types that Gengar suffers with, and it just is able to hit more than Psychic could, and it does more at the same time too. So that's pretty nice. While Psychic is a very powerful move, I feel like Dazzling Gleam is the better one. But you can definitely run Psychic if you're feeling it, and you know what? It hits harder than Dazzling Gleam, so you got your reasons there. And that's pretty much Gengar. That is pretty much Gengar, one of the better Pokemon in the game, I definitely feel like. And the best Poison-type Pokemon, I feel like. All the other Pokemon just can't stand up to Gengar, I feel. And Gengar just does the job well, and he does it effectively, which not many Pokemon can do, especially in the Pokemon universe. So let's go ahead and leave Gengar behind and say thank you very much for watching. And thanks for being patient with this video. I did take an awfully long time to upload it, and I do apologize about that. And but yeah, thanks for watching the video. If you've made it this far, you know what? I'm gonna clap for you. Thanks for watching, and you know what? I really appreciate all my viewers, and I appreciate every view I can get, and I appreciate every sub I get. And it's not too often I get those, but you know what? When I do, it means a lot to me, is what I'm trying to say. So thank you very, very much for your support, especially those who have been watching for a long time. And you know who I'm talking about, but I definitely appreciate those people. So you guys mean a whole lot to me, and I'm going to end the thanking there, but again, thank you. Follow me on Twitter at Hippodippin, and I'd appreciate that equally. So I'm Hippodippin. Thanks for watching the video. Thanks a whole lot, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.